So as I'm sure most of you have heard by now, both the House and the Senate has voted on the Epstein-Files Transparency Act, and this means it is headed to President Trump's desk to sign, and hopefully within the next 30 days, we are going to get a lot more transparency on Epstein and who his favorite people in his inner circle were and who was committing crimes. Now, before we get too much further, I have to say, I understand being completely tired of hearing about the Epstein files, but I want to clarify what I think that means. We obviously want accountability. We want to know who committed crimes. We want these people to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Throw the entire book at them, and when you're done with that book, throw another book at them, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of how long ago their crimes were, regardless of how popular they are. We don't care. We want accountability for whoever it is, whoever is revealed to have been a crappy human being and committed these crimes with this absolutely egregious person. That's not what we're tired of, because we want this to be fulfilled. We're not tired of it to the point where we just want to stop the investigation. We're tired of this being used as a political volleyball. We're tired of hearing from people who had the opportunity to release these years ago, who had their own president in office for 4 years and did not even mention it, pretend now that they actually care about the victims, pretend that they want justice, pretend that this is something that they have always been interested in, because it is completely insincere. We know that you don't actually care about anything other than making sure that Trump is found guilty again of something, whether or not there's any evidence to suggest or to prove that he did anything wrong. So that is what we are tired of. People that genuinely do not care and never have cared before Trump mentioned it once on the campaign trail. And now you guys are pretending that this was like a huge campaign promise of his. These people pretending that they've always wanted justice and this has always been on their radar. It hasn't. Stop lying. We don't believe you. You people are full of crap. But we are going to talk about this a little bit today because it is backfiring spectacularly on Democrats. Because the more that we do talk about the Epstein files, the more involvement we find from Democrats. The more that we find out how close their relationships were with this absolutely disgusting human being. So we're going to get into this, but before we get too much further, I am Outspoken Samantha. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. Please hit the like button below the video and subscribe to my channel. Also be sure to turn on the notification bell because I know that my videos are not going to show up in the YouTube feed, and unless you're getting the notification, you're probably not going to see when I upload my videos. So I would appreciate you doing that as well. So first, let's just look at this vote that happened yesterday. This is from the Daily Wire. It says, Senate unanimously votes to release the Epstein files, sending bill to Trump's desk. The Senate on Tuesday unanimously voted to release documents related to the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein just hours after the House of Representatives passed the same bill. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer announced on X that he received unanimous consent to approve the Senate bill to release the Epstein files. Once the House sends the bill to the upper chamber, it will immediately go to President Donald Trump for his signature. Just hours before Schumer's call for a unanimous consent, the House passed the Epstein-Files Transparency Act by a vote of 427-1, with only Louisiana Republican Representative Clay Higgins voting no. Clay Higgins, I understand your position on this, but this just isn't it. This is not your moment. The bill, which requires the Department of Justice to publish all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in DOJ's possession that relate to the investigation and prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein, now heads to the president. We'll see how this all plays out. When all is said and done, they're going to have 30 days to get this information out there. How they choose to do that, I honestly hope that it's the easiest, simplest way possible so that even the most low IQ individual can access and read these files. But I think that we also know that regardless of what's in there, and we we can pretty confidently say at this point that there is not going to be any evidence whatsoever that Trump did anything wrong. I think regardless of that, Democrats are going to continue to push this and use this as a distraction. They're going to say the files were scrubbed. They're going to say that, they're releasing them now because Pam Bondi has had plenty of time to go through and eliminate anything that shines a bad light on President Trump or whatever. Like, we already know that this is going to happen. So if you can never accept the truth, or your entire baseline for how you push information is set on never accepting what's right in front of you, then you have an endless array of possibilities of the narratives that you can choose from. But as I said, this is backfiring, because the more that we talk about Epstein, the more we realize that he had a lot of friends in Democrat circles. And this wasn't just in flight logs. It wasn't just by being at the same parties. It wasn't just by knowing him by association or having shaken his hand once or met him in person or whatever. These were actual relationships that they had with this man. And there's no way to deny that they didn't know who this man was and what he was involved in. So if you want to talk about hiding and covering for a child schmeditor, we're getting a longer list of Democrats that seem to have been doing so. So the first one that came out immediately was former Harvard president Larry Summers, and he voluntarily stepped down from his position, or it will be stepping down from his position, because he's embarrassed about the relationship that he had with Epstein. And this was before any of this new information is going to come out. So he's probably saying, you know what, this is going to come out. I probably should just nip this in the bud before people find out the hard way. It says former Harvard president Larry Summers announced he will be stepping back from all public commitments in an effort to rebuild trust after documents showed he asked Jeffrey Epstein for advice on pursuing an affair with a female mentee. I am deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain they have caused. The announcement comes less than 1 week after 7 years of correspondence between Summers and the disgraced financier Jeffrey E. Epstein were released by Republicans on the House Oversight Committee. The document showed Summers and Epstein continued to exchange messages until July 5, 2019, just 1 day before Epstein was arrested on new sex trafficking charges. As we're talking about all of the people that had proven involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, we have to wonder if any of this would have ever come out had Trump's DOJ not been willing to gather this information and put it out there. Because had we had Kamala in office, they never would have admitted any of this. We would never have known about any of these relationships. Because, Larry has known for 6 years, since the first Trump's presidency, that this was his relationship with Epstein. And I think he was probably hoping for a long time that he would take this secret to his grave. But he's like, this information is going to come out anyway. I may as well just own it. But with all of these people, would we have ever known had we had more Democrat leadership in the White House? Probably not. Probably not. If you want to talk about covering for a child schmeditor, this would have been covered forever. So the next revelation, that's kind of a huge one that a lot of people need to be talking about, is with Stacey Plaskett. This one says, reportedly, Stacey Plaskett was texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional oversight hearing where they were interrogating lawyer Michael Cohen. And this was this trial to get Trump to bring charges against him. He was texting her what she should ask and people to bring up. So Jeffrey Epstein was specifically feeding her information to help bring Trump down. Interesting. It says Plaskett's involvement with Epstein between this and her allegedly asking Epstein to come to a fundraiser is insane. Our Congress is so corrupt. And there's this video where of this specific hearing, and you can see her looking down at her phone. Let's have a look.
And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood,
look at her. She's chewing gum, Pat. She's chewing gum. Not
he
anymore.
Commented that only black people could live that way.
Stacey Plaskett, 2 minutes later.
Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will
Cohen
turn it
brought
over.
up Rona.
You, as my friend, Mr. Meadows, pointed out, misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony.
She doesn't know what Rona is.
You were going to review that. Did you review? Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record? Yes or no?
Yes. Quick, you're up
Question,
next.
you helped out the president.
Is this an acronym? She's asking
or
Epstein.
In the campaign.
Quick, what does Rona mean? And it's a person,
your
Pat.
words today.
That's the assistant.
Of course, Stacey Plaskett is being asked about all of this, and she is dodging the relevant question. In this interview, she's being asked, do you regret maintaining that relationship, that friendship with him? And she dances around the question without ever answering it.
Together, and you ask the questions.
And I understand you're saying, look, he was a constituent, right? And whether or not they're good or bad, you're just trying to get information to get to the truth. But at this time, this was happening after he had already pleaded guilty to state prostitution charges. And then there was that Miami Herald article that came out in 2018 detailing how widespread the sexual abuse was, interviewing 80 women who said that he sexually abused her. So abuse them, I should say. So I'm wondering, as you look back, do you think that it was an error in judgment to be communicating with him at all? Do you have any regrets?
Well, listen, I think Jeffrey Epstein is a reprehensible person. Absolutely disgusting. I lived in a house during childhood with a mother who had been sexually abused by her dad. And I know the effect that had on her, as well as us as her family. And so I understand what the victims are going through.
Just to break in right there, that doesn't answer the question. And using your mother's experience to manipulate people into thinking that you actually care is reprehensible in and of itself. It's easy to say that Jeffrey Epstein was a reprehensible human being after he's already gone, after you have no need to be able to question him or to get anything from him at this point. It's easy to say that now.
And I want them to get their their justice, their peace out of this. I believe that Jeffrey Epstein had information, and I was going to get information to get at the truth. Having a friendship with him is not something that I would deem to have. And so I'm just looking forward. I'm moving forward. And I think that that's what we as American people should do, is move forward. If individuals are not involved in illegal activity, extending his criminal enterprise or his financial enterprise or all of those things, I think that we need to look at what people are doing moving forward.
Wait, let me just better understand that. What is that point? Because at the time he was a known sex offender and it had been detailed all the sexual abuse.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes. And as a prosecutor, you get information from people where you can. I've interviewed confidential informants. I've interviewed narcotics, drug traffickers and others. And that doesn't mean that I'm their friend. That doesn't mean that they are friendly with me. It means that they have information that I need and that I'm trying to get at the truth. And that's what I did.
So no regrets, basically, is what you're saying.
I'm moving forward.
So no regrets. No regrets is what you're saying. It's interesting that they always want us to move forward when it comes to stuff like the egregious behavior that the Democrats engage in. They always just want us to move forward, to move past it, to forget about it. It's in the past. We don't need to think about it anymore. But to this day, we're still talking about supposedly a comment that Trump made in a locker room decades ago, and him supposedly making fun of a handicapped reporter. They can't let go of anything that Trump has ever done since the moment he was born. But when they do something, we have to move past it. It's fine. No, this is not something that we're going to move past. She wasn't interviewing him to get information from him about his crimes. She was texting him and getting advice on how to embellish the accusations they had against Trump to bring him down. So then we get to Hakeem Jeffries, who was apparently inviting Jeffrey Epstein to fundraisers in 2013. And this is James Comey talking about this.
Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance.
And this is that email invitation sent to Jeffrey Epstein, where he's inviting him to this fundraising dinner for Hakeem Jeffries, selling him on this point because Hakeem was such a staunch supporter of Obama. Says, Dear Jeffrey, we are thrilled to announce that we are working with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, one of the rising stars in the New York congressional delegation, sometimes referred to as Brooklyn's Barack. He is a staunch supporter of President Obama and a progressive voice for the people of New York City. It says Hakeem is committed to electing a Democratic majority in 2014 and is encouraging his friends to participate in the DCCC fundraising dinner with President Obama this coming Monday night. Shoot us an email or give us a call at phone number if you would like to get involved with the dinner or would like to get an opportunity to get to know Hakeem better. He is an impressive guy and who will be a progressive voice in New York politics for years to come. There's absolutely no way that any of these people can claim to not have known who Jeffrey Epstein was and what he was doing. These people probably know more about the client list and the files than anybody else. That's just my opinion. Don't come for me. But like I said, it's just fascinating that the louder they scream about these files, the louder they scream about Trump, the more information we find out about how involved Democrats actually were with Jeffrey Epstein, and not just be flying with him once in a while or bumping into him at a party or anything like that. These were people that were asking him to fundraise for him, asking for a donation, texting him for advice on how to take down Trump, asking him for dating advice, Larry Summers. These are people that knew this man and that Jeffrey Epstein was actually helping. Again, we want accountability regardless of who it is. But I just want people to stop pretending that they care about the victims, that they care about accountability, and they care about justice when they never asked one question about any of this when Biden was in office, when Obama was in office, when years and years and years of other administrations knew who this man was and never asked a single question. Anyway, I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure again to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. I appreciate you so much. As you guys know, we always end with Charlie Kirk. So keep it real, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
I think the DOJ should immediately move to unseal all the Epstein documents in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah. Everything.
And
Everything except child sexual assault material.
I think every file should be released to the public the same way as the JFK files. Let the American people decide.